Okay, guys, so I want to just talk about what I had already been talking about in a video about domestic abuse, just to balance everything out a little bit more. So let's talk about submitting to your husband and what does that look like. Um, we hear the word submit to your husband a lot in Christian circles. And again, I'm not saying that you should not submit to your husband. It does say in the Bible, for women in Peter, it talks about women submitting to your husbands even if he's harsh. So husbands can be harsh, they can be grumpy, they can be edgy. Try to understand that they are stressed a lot of times. They have a lot to deal with. They're out in the world a lot of times. They're dealing with stuff. Not that you're not out in the world dealing with stuff too, but try to give your husband grace. And that's something that I did try to do, but be very careful. Like I just talked about domestic abuse. Be very careful you are not getting domestic abuse mixed up with harshness. Like when a husband punches walls. We had a trailer and he would just punch walls in the trailer. It's very intimidating. It's very stressful when your husband deals with his anger this way. A lot of times you can just be like, okay, that's just him. That's how he deals with his anger. And just be like, okay, that's just him. But when he ends up not being able to control that, and it goes further, then you realize, okay, this has turned into domestic abuse. And I shared where he had pushed me. And I just talked about a video where I had stopped that. I had prayed about it and stopped it. And that's a good thing. That boundary is a real good thing because it could have gotten worse. And like I said, in anger, he has divorced me. And one of the emails, he's like, this is after he chose to divorce me. After he filed, he then tried to blame me and say, see, because of the way you're acting, this is why I'm divorcing you, with an angry emoji face. You don't even have to do anything sometimes for someone to be, like your husband, to be ticked off. It's just the way he is. There's nothing you can do to help him. I mean, near the end, he was like Jekyll and Hyde. One minute he's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, okay. The Bible talks about forgiving others 7 times 7, or 7 times 70. Like, it means throughout the whole day, when your brother comes to you and says, sorry, you are to forgive, but there are consequences. And you can forgive, but when someone keeps doing it, there are consequences. So for a woman, I think she's not going to feel safe. She's not going to feel like she can really do anything. She's going to feel like she's walking on eggshells in anything she's doing. She could, at any minute hit a time bomb, basically. Any minute. You don't know, what you're in for. Trust is broken. I mean, I remember growing up with a dad who was very angry. And he did at one point, throw me against a solid door, pull my hair. I think he had it. He had felt like, he didn't really have a relationship with me, but what he heard from my mother, he decided to believe her for some reason and just kind of come at me. And when my father had disowned me pretty much for no reason, I tried once to go back and talk. He didn't want to. He slammed the door on my face, and I never looked back. Never, ever, ever again did I look back. I did not try to work things out with him or anything. And now with my husband, I'm happy. I'm not looking back ever again. I'm happy. I feel like God has brought me into a situation where he was like, I'm protecting you, Melissa, and you're not going to have to deal with this anymore. And so the effects on women when she feels safe, like I feel very safe over here, as far as being away from my husband, and looking back at the journals and looking at the impact of his anger on me, and toward me, I can see how destructive that was for me. And luckily I'm pretty strong, and I didn't take a lot of it personal, and I didn't take a lot of it I took it as, you know, it's his problem. He's the one with the problem. But still, that atmosphere can affect you. It can affect a woman's self-esteem. It can rob her of joy. But ultimately, we know our joy is in Christ, right? So we can still be pretty joyful even when people around us are, you know, negative and rotten and grumpy and all that. But it is so much healthier for a woman to be taken out of that situation where she is enjoying herself again. I like myself. I like who I am. I have fun in life. And when you can be in that place and you can be like, what a blessing. I don't have to deal with my husband's anger anymore. It is a blessing that God has taken you out of that relationship. So don't feel it's something negative. And I felt the same way with my father. I'm like, what a blessing that he disowned me, because I don't have to deal with that anymore. And same thing with your husband. When he's a man of anger, just be like, you know, I'm glad. And it is hard for some men. Some men cannot deal with stress. They just can't. They do not have the capacity to deal well with stress in life, and they don't know what to do. And you can certainly understand it. You can, but it doesn't justify the lashing out in the anger for somebody. Ben used to say to me, I'm sorry, Melissa, it's wrong. I act like you are my punching bag. He would literally admit that emotionally. I punch on you emotionally, and it's not okay. And he would say that. But again, if somebody can say whatever they want, and especially when you love a guy, you want to believe what he says. You want to. But if you want to look at the actions, and if you're not seeing real change, and you're not seeing a guy humble himself and be broken before God and humble himself, and say, you know what, I need help. I got to get some counsel. I mean, a guy has a responsibility toward you. If he can't do something serious about it, like we did go to counseling once, and all he did was take that counseling time to, it was one session to just defend himself with everything. He didn't even want to be there. So the guy's like, do you see how you get revved up when you talk? Do you see this? So it's not even really wanting help. He didn't even really want help. So if a guy can't make real changes and say, okay, I need some help with my anger, I have destroyed myself, I'm destroying my wife and my family with my anger, then you got to realize you can't help them. So that's pretty much it. Don't feel like you have to put up with a guy's anger or be his emotional punching bag. A guy has a responsibility to control himself in life. Even if you do something that totally ticks him off, like I have done things sometimes, like, you know, at work that might tick someone off or something, they still are responsible for controlling themselves and their response to you. So don't justify it. Don't take it and be like, well, geez, you know, I burned his toast, or, oh shoot, I got the wrong coffee. If you get your husband's wrong coffee, he's a big boy and he can go buy his own coffee. He can go be like, okay, you know what, my wife got me the wrong coffee, I'll go get some coffee on the way to work. You know, don't feel like you're gonna take your husband's lashing out, because God doesn't take it. God's not happy to see a marriage where a husband can't treat his wife right, and he can treat like any stranger that he sees out there. Like, a lot of men will treat a waitress nicer than they will their own wife. They'll treat other women nicer because they're looking for approval from other women while they're jerks to their own wife at home. So you don't have to put up with that.